Today we start tearing down this 2005 Odyssey behind me. This boat came to us from Iowa. Quick little, I think like 8 or 9 hour drive over here. This is getting all the bells and whistles, flooring, railings, furniture. It's getting it all. Let's just take a peek at what we're starting with and point out some of the factors on this boat that are making it a worthy candidate for restoration. This is a big boat. This is 25 foot on paper. It's 24 foot, 8.5 foot wide deck. Big, big boat. One of those big factors when you're considering restoration versus buying new or used is that pontoon diameter. This thing has huge pontoons. They're 25 or 26 inch diameter. Lots of buoyancy with that. That's one of the things you're gonna get on a modern boat. We're gonna get rid of these railings. They're just a little outdated. They're a little beat up in places. And then even for a 2005, this is a big motor on a pontoon. It's 135 high output, so basically 150 horse Evinrude. Runs great for them. We're gonna keep running that, but we're gonna swap everything else out to make it cleaner. We got the dirty, old, crunchy, can you hear that? Crunchy carpet. We'll move their fuel tank. Right now it's back behind in the middle. As long as that'll fit, which it looks like it will, we're gonna slide that over and we're gonna put it into the port side of the stern entry kit of the railings. Let's hop inside and take a peek and show you where this all started, because their seats are getting pretty sunburnt, starting to get pretty beat up. It's almost 20 years old. At first glance, you see all of the crud that gets trapped in carpet, worked in there with the vinyl. You could rinse that right off. It'll go under the railings. This has risers on it, but the carpet just catches everything. But if you take a peek, these seats, we had the dual captain's chairs in front. Wouldn't necessarily call it a fishing style, but a couple swiveling captain's chairs in front, but they're all getting this crunchy vinyl, or it's starting to get a little aged, showing its age, and then we get that what we call sunburn on the seats. I don't even know exactly if anyone knows what causes that particularly. I've heard that it comes through from the glue and the foam from underneath. I don't know. Comment below if you have a theory on where that comes from. But once it starts, it's darn near impossible to get rid of. Otherwise, the stitching is starting to go. This is one of those where we all know, we all do it. If you have a full cover, sometimes you just don't feel like putting a full mooring cover back on a 25-foot boat at the end of the hot day in the summer. So you leave it off, and that becomes a habit, and then your seats start to get the stitching going. They start to get crunchy on the vinyl. You know you've done it. If you're out there watching, you're thinking the same thing. I should have covered it. So we will do individual seat covers once we get the vinyl in, so we can keep those seats protected. Got a little duct tape going on. We'll do a new helm with new gauge package. Stereo's relatively new, so we'll reuse that. This is a big thing that's gonna change. It's gonna give them more interior space. This has kind of a double sun deck, so that's gonna go. We're gonna get rid of that and do a single sun deck pad and fill that extra space with more seating instead of being so crowded here and not having as much space for people to sit. This boat's getting torn down, started today, so we can get it right back together and back out, because it's already beginning of summer. It's the first part of June. We want to get this back on kind of in the middle of June. Let's see what we can do. We've got this boat torn down. While I was up north delivering a boat yesterday, Corey and Marty got it down to the bare bones. There was a big challenge on this boat. Every single cross member had some sort of adhesive silicone, not just the seams, every single one. Not sure why, but it wasn't super fun to deal with. But a big shout out to Odyssey on this boat. They use a square tubing for their last two cross members, and with a big 150 like that, or 135 HO, we expect a little bit of sag in those cross members in the back. This is minimal. I mean, enough to where when we reattach the plywood and railings go back on, it's going to basically be gone. They did a really good job of using square tubing. It's still just 1/8 inch walled, but that's a 2-inch, I believe, square tube, and they do exactly how we install. So they had the same idea as us. They bolt that square tube in. It reduces any twist, any torque. They did this on the back 2 cross members and the very front cross member. And if you're ever thinking about beefing up your transom, I think this is a genius way to do it. This could just be bolted on. They welded it, but it's a brace that runs from that transom up to that second cross member forward, believe it or not. And it's bolted in, and that's just going to reduce the torque of the engine bouncing, the torque of the engine under power. Going to take it out, distribute that pressure and that torque instead of it all just pummeling into these cross members in the back. So really like that design. I think that's really smart. And on this boat, it's a little unique. This last cross member in front of the motor is exposed. So the deck doesn't actually go all the way back to it by design. The deck actually cuts in front of it a little bit in front of the engine. We're going to keep going on this and get it decked and vinyled right now. This is something that we work through on every single boat that we redeck and vinyl. The back of the boat is where we start. Every time we square up our back board and then we run forward from there. And we've talked about in other videos, sometimes there's a little adjustments along the way to keep things as square as possible. But here's the challenge you're gonna face. This boat is not that old. I think it's a 2005, we said. If I measure right here, this cross member, from the bracket that's welded on the pontoon, that is right at 2 inches. On the other side, from the bracket to the end of the cross member was 1 7/8 inches. So here we are thinking that everything structurally in the aluminum is plumb square. If these are loose, that's one thing, but nothing's loose on this boat. It's all nice and tight. They just built it slightly off, I guess. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna square our backboard up the best we can, accounting for the difference in space here. We're gonna trust that the brackets that are welded to the pontoons, these are done on a jig, they're done the same every time at the factory. We're gonna trust that that is our squarest point, and we're gonna measure from there. So again, we're talking about 1/8 of an inch over 24 feet. No one could ever pick that up. Heck, with a laser, you'd have trouble picking that up. But I wanna make it as perfect as I can the first time, and nobody's perfect, but we're going to try our best. So I measure both sides, I account for that difference. I like to go ahead and I make a mark right in the center of my cross member. This is 1.5 inches total width on top. I make a mark at 3/4 of an inch. That gives me another point to square up my back board with. And once I've measured the back, I get my spacing here where I want it. I get my spacing on the front where I want it. Then we'll go ahead and screw our back of the board in. We'll lift up, peel our tar tape, drop it down, and then we start running, and we just keep checking as we go to make sure that we don't need to adjust those boards just slightly. Sometimes it's just a 1/16 or 1/8 of an inch, just shimmied one way or the other to keep everything running plumb. The vinyl and the deck trim cover that and make it all look nice when we're done.
Your hair looks really nice. You got flow going on.
It's a lot of hair.
Do your little tricky thing that you did. Come on.
Oh!
Wow. Okay, try it. You gotta try it. Oh my! You're gonna do both? Oh.
Yeah! Go! Crisscross. This is like me in the drill.
Not a chance.
What happens on the crisscross? It gets so hard.
Those are called crossovers.
Something happens in my brain.
Yeah, you almost get hit by a hammer.
And you also lean into it, so you're breaking your face. Oh,
Did you do
that
it?
one.
You crisscross those?
Yeah, video evidence.
Wow.
Okay, oh,
You're gonna try it?
I don't know if you're trying again. Okay.
No, I don't think it's trying.
Okay. This has been a hot topic lately, so we're gonna cover it. It's regarding deck trim that looks like this. Are you moving it on purpose? This I call F-channel deck trim. Sometimes you're gonna have deck trim that doesn't have this extra little piece here. This is a backwards F. If we flip the screen right now, it would be an F. What we need to do is get this sandwiched on top of the vinyl for the top piece and sandwiching underneath on the board on the other. Step one, when you're taking your boards off and you realize you have this type of channel, measure the thickness of your board and measure the channel here, what kind of gap you have. There's a chance that your boat has 5/8 inch plywood instead of 3/4. That is a thinner board. So make sure that your deck trim, if that's only made to hold a 5 or 5/8 inch gap, it's not gonna fit over your 3/8 or 3/4. Gosh, there's a lot of 8s and quarters and stuff. It's not gonna fit over your 3/4 inch board and vinyl. So that's something to take into account. If you can't fit it, just absolutely, you've tried everything we're gonna show you in this video and you cannot get it on there, two options. Take an angle grinder and cut this tab off, so it's just gonna sit on top like an angle or typical deck trim, or sand or route the heck out of the bottom. You don't have to route the heck out of it, but take a little bit off the bottom. Somebody just told me they did that recently and made it work. With a heavy grit, they sanded off and they were able to wedge it on there. In this case, we have a corner cap, so we know that the deck trim is going to have to line up. Give me a little more, Marty. I have Marty down at the end there giving me a hand. So I'm gonna get it as close as I can, lining up with the holes of my corner caps. These were from the factory. When I go to get it started on here, I tip it back, I push up to make sure I'm on the bottom of the wood, and then I work that lip over top of my vinyl. We have to be really careful here to make sure we're not buckling that vinyl underneath. I put stainless staples probably every 3 or 4 inches all the way around this boat, knowing that I'm reinstalling this F channel. My next move, once I start to get that on there, I get the front corner, or if I was starting in the back, I could do that too. But because I need to match up with these old corner caps, I need to start in the front to line up these holes. I'm gonna work my way back just a little bit at a time. Marty's just holding back there, and I'm just making sure that I'm not pinching any vinyl. If I do, I'll back it off. Sometimes I'll use a real thin screwdriver or something to help feed the vinyl under. This one's going on pretty smoothly, all things considered. Before I push it all the way on, I'm gonna double check my deck trim. I'm double checking my corner cap and deck trim. This isn't quite lined up. So if I give Marty a dead blow hammer or a rubber mallet,
Throw it to him.
and he goes to the end, I'm just gonna keep a hand on here, keeping it sandwiched, lining up that front, and he's just gonna tap it forward. Keep going, yep, keep going, keep going, a little more, right there. So he just drove it. Each tap, he was giving me about 1/8 of an inch, and now we're lined up with the holes, front, side, tops, where the deck trim needs to go. So that means this is where I want it. Last step, I'm gonna make sure I'm sandwiched in nice and tight all the way down. And something to consider, if we look underneath here, this is a hole for a bolt that's gonna hold the corner cap in. This is a hole for a stainless screw. So let's go ahead. Pounded it in flush here. I'm gonna put this little, it's a number 8 stainless screw, 3/4 inch. I'm gonna drive that in to hold this in place. And you're typically gonna see 2 or 3, sometimes a few more, the rest of the way down. Now with that held in, just keeping an eye on the top here. Give it one last look down, make sure that there's no vinyl bubbling or getting peeled by the trim. That looks really good. I'll go underneath and anywhere else that there were places for screws. There's one right here. I'll make sure that this is pressed all the way in. There's still a little bit of movement on this one, and I'll run my screw up through, hold it in place. And if it wants to move on you, you can always add a couple more screws. Usually they're just self-tappers. You run it right through the metal and the wood, lock it in place. That's how we approach this deck trim. This one went on, I would say pretty darn smooth. It's usually a little bit tighter squeeze, a little more cautiousness with that vinyl getting pinched. But if you staple your edges very thoroughly, every 4 or 5 inches at the most, probably 3 or 4 inches, it's gonna go a lot smoother for you.
Is cautionness a word? Cautiousness?
Cautiousness?
Yeah, cautiousness.
Being cautious?
Cautiousness.
Cautiousness. To have cautious.
Right.
To be full of cautious.
To be cautious.
I don't know why my tongue comes out. You missed him, right? I did one of these.
Whoa!
Try that.
No.
Come on.
No, it's gonna fly right at you.
Come on. I'll get out of the way.
No. There's
Not by
rocks.
river.
Typical part of every build that we do or restoration project, I got my sun deck kit up on the back here just to get the back of the boat defined, and now I'm working my way through getting all of my seats up, and then I'm going to go ahead and extend those railings forward, get the railings all mocked up, and this boat will start coming together quick today. Railings and seats in, hopefully get the console where it's going to go, moving right along.
River, are you done with this boat? River?
Finish this boat? Did it pass your inspection?
Did it pass?
Yeah, it passed just good. Ready to go home.
Oh, could I have a treat, please?
We just finished wrapping up this boat. It's going back to Iowa today, all the way from West Michigan, where we are. Let's take a look at everything we did to it as a finished product and our finished project, and see if it gives you some ideas for your boat. Starting with the beige railing kit. So this is the beige railing kit from PontoonStuff.com. It's the 8.5 foot wide. We ended up doing a 21 foot kit on this boat. It's a 24 foot deck, so that left us a good amount of space in the front here, and that's gonna be enough to allow for them to get their dogs on and off the boat. They wear a life jacket so they can just reach down over the bow, pick them right up, and back in the boat they go. Teak woven vinyl floor. You'll see that when we climb inside a little bit better. We did stainless cleats all around. Our wall mounted docking lights and navigation lights. Let's climb in, take a look at those luxury seats so you can get a look at how those turned out and how that brings all this together. Really sharp boat right here. If you're shopping for any of these materials you see in this video, like the vinyl flooring, the luxury seats, go over to PontoonStuff.com, take a peek at what they've got, and in the description of this video, there's a coupon code that'll save you money. There's a link if you shop with our link that will also help our channel with a little kickback from shopping at PontoonStuff.com. So when you're looking for options for seating for your boat, you're gonna see on PontoonStuff.com, there's 3 levels of seats. There's classic, and then premium, and then luxury. The vinyl used is the same in all of them. The quality, the durability, the thickness, it's all the same in terms of the actual vinyl. However, going from classic to premium, you get more cushion in your seat, bases and backs, and more options for colors. And then luxury, we're gonna get way more cushion, a little softer cushion in the front here, a pillow top in the back. These cushions actually remove if you wanna take them off to clean them or clean behind them too. Same seat bases for all of them, so tons of storage. But again, in the luxury, we're just gonna get a more comfortable seat right out of the box, ready to go. So in the front here, we have a traditional lean back seat, 38 bench, 30-inch corner. And then as we move back on the starboard side, we extended this seating, give a few more seating options for the starboard side. Because a lot of times everybody loads up on the port side because that's where more seats are. This is a good way to help counterbalance your boat, instead of it just being the captain on one side and everybody else on the other. 28 corner right here really bookends this well right into the console. If we do a lean back right into the console here, the lid won't open all the way. So in this case, I can still sit back in this corner seat. I can talk to the driver. I could turn and kick my feet up, just like a lean back. This is a really good option to bookend your bench seats. Highly recommend that 28 corner just in that scenario here. Come on back. Pretty traditional lean back into a big bench, 55 inch, 28 corner to a 38 inch bench. Because this boat is so big, 8.5 wide, 24-foot deck, we're able to use this 38 inch bench and there's still tons of room to walk through. Sometimes we do a 28 bench here, especially on an 8-foot wide boat, and that leaves that room to walk through. Sun deck kit from Pontoon Stuff. We did the heavy duty 8.5 by 10 Bimini, and our console got all the bells and whistles over here with a gauge panel, switch panel, and then our stereo head unit with 4 speakers. This is just one more example of what's possible on a 20-plus-year-old boat to bring it back to looking brand new and modern again, and just extending the life of your pontoon boat without spending the crazy amount that they want for a brand new boat. Thank you for watching. We'll see you on the next project coming right up soon.